Please unmute yourself, ma'am.
So thank you, Dr. Shalini, for this introduction, and good evening, everybody. Good evening, all the dignitaries present over here, especially. So as she said, without wasting much time, because statistics is such a big topic and we have to cover a few aspects at least in 1 hour's time. What I'm going to do today, I'm not going to take you into very much detail of statistics, but just to give you a primer, or what we say, a trailer. जैसे मूवी को ट्रेलर होता है, वैसे हम सिर्फ स्टैटिस्टिक्स का एक ट्रेलर देखेंगे 1 घंटे में, and we will try to learn that why certain things are important, why should we learn certain things. And before I start, I assume that many of the students or many of the participants, they are PG students. So basically, first of all, I would like to say that whenever we hear about statistics or we talk about statistics, the first reaction which each student gives is, yeah, why I have to do this, because I have left statistics or mathematics in 12th standard, and now again why I have to learn these things. So your reaction is valid. Really, why should we do statistics? And we didn't ever like statistics, and that's why we have chosen biology, science, and that's why we are in a medical field. Of course, these all arguments are right, but to tell you that nobody is asking you to become statistician after the first year statistics syllabus. We just expect you to, like, we, or in the sense, it is expected from you that you should at least know some bits and pieces of statistics which will help you to analyze your own data. Nobody is telling you that you should go and analyze the data of the world, or you should analyze the data of COVID statistics. Nobody is expecting from you that. But only thing which is to be achieved after attending the statistics lecture is that you should be able to analyze your own research works data. So with this, I am starting my today's talk, and actually the topic given to me is sampling, sample size calculation, data types, presentation, so many things. But I am going to start with the simple thing first, and that is data types. So let us start with data types. And we all know what is data. I assume that everybody knows data, so I'm directly jumping to data types. So what is data? Whenever we do any research work, we collect few values. Suppose you are working on a drug which improves hemoglobin, or which is useful in Pandu. So hemoglobin estimation is your one of the parameter. So you collect the values of hemoglobin before and after treatment. And these hemoglobin values is nothing but the data, the values which you collect from different participants of your study. Those values, the collective, some collective nature of the values or the variables you collect is called as data. So data are values. And when you analyze these values, when you analyze the data, then it becomes, it becomes results, or it becomes observations. So only values do not have any meaning. You have to analyze those values to make some sense of them. So this is a basic premises of data, that whatever values you collect in your research work is known as data. Now, going further, what are the data types? So basically there are two data types. First is categorical or qualitative, and second is numerical or quantitative. So as the name suggests, categorical means the data which is available in some categories, okay, which describes some quality. That data type is known as qualitative data. Here you don't get numbers, but you get some quality. You get some categories. For example, Vata, Pitta and Kapha. So how many individuals are of Vata Prakriti, Pitta Prakriti and Kapha Prakriti? Or how many individuals are of Rasasar, Raktasar, Mausasar, whatever, Sammanan. So these are the categories. These are different groups. They represent some qualities. When we say that Vata Prakriti, it describes some whole list of qualities. So qualitative data is, which describes some quality. And here the individuals are grouped into categories based on some qualitative trait. And how you present this data, number or percentage of individuals in sample. So if you have 100 individuals, you will say of these 100, 20 were of Vata Prakriti, 25 were of Pitta Prakriti, and so on. So this is about qualitative data. When it is numerical data, you can express the whatever data is in numbers. So numbers in the sense you measure. Here we have not measured Vata Prakriti, we have not measured Kapha Prakriti, but in numerical data you can measure the thing. You have some tool, you have some instrument, you have some equipment to measure the numerical data, and that is how it is called as numerical or quantitative data. So here the data will be in numbers. In if I have to give you example, the same thing, hemoglobin is a number. So where you can measure the thing, you have the data in numbers, then you call it as numerical or quantitative data. Next thing is what are the examples? So let us take some, I mean, well-known examples first, and then I have already given you examples from Ayurveda. But generally, when categorical data or qualitative data is taught, these are the qualities or these are the categories which have been generally mentioned. For example, hair color. So black colored people, brown colored people, you can categorize like this. Or opinion of patient about headache. So mild headache, moderate headache, severe headache. So these are the qualities. These are the categories. Then smoking status, smoker, non-smoker. So these are all examples of categorical data. And I have already told you that Vata, Pitta, Kapha, Prakriti or Samhanan or Sarata, these are the examples from Ayurveda. Now, this categorical data is again divided into two types, nominal and ordinal. So what is nominal data? Where the categories are not ordered in any way. These are three distinct, these are, distinct categories. They are not ordered. For example, if you see in the earlier slide, mild, moderate, and severe. So there is some order. Compared to mild, moderate is more severe. Moderate compared to moderate, severe is the next grade. So there is a order. Whereas black, brown, blonde, red, can you say that black is better than brown or brown is black better than black? No, there is no order. They are just categories. So when there are just categories, it is called as nominal data. Whereas when there are order, when there is a order like mild, moderate, severe. So if I have to give you example of from Ayurveda, then ayoga, mithya yoga, ati yoga. So ayoga is something which is less, samyak yoga is samyak yoga is a proper thing, and then ati yoga is something which is excess. So these are the categories, that something less, then appropriate, and then excess. So these are orders, these are grades, and that is called as ordinal data. So when there is an order, the data is called as ordinal. When there is no order, the data is called nominal. So as I told you, nominal data is unordered categories, ordinal data, order is important. Coming to numerical data, these are few examples. I'm first telling you the examples. So albumin level, height, age, time to complete a homework assignment. That means 4 hours, 5 hours, 2 hours, whatever time. So it is a number. So you can, present it in a number, and that's why these all are examples of numerical data. Now, numerical data is also of two types, continuous data and discrete data. So in continuous data, the point is that there is no gap between possible values. It is a continuous thing. There is no gap in between. For example, your hemoglobin value can be 11.1, 11.2, 11.3. So it can take any value. It can be presented in decimals also. So that type of data is called as continuous. There is no gap. That's why it is continuous data. And okay, so there is no interval possible in the data set, and in discrete data there is a gap in between. These data can be presented only in whole number. So if I ask you how many students are there in the class today, so the number would be something 80, 90. It can never be 80.1, 80.2, 80.3. So you understand that in this kind of data, the numbers or the values are always whole number. There are gaps possible. I mean, 80 and 81, there is a gap, but we don't consider that gap. Now, this kind of data is discrete data. How many children are in family? This is a discrete data. How many deaths occurred due to COVID-19? This is a discrete data, because we have nothing like that. 11.2 dates occurred. This is not a kind of data which we present like this. So discrete data is always in whole numbers, complete numbers, and no decimal in discrete data. So in short, what we have seen so far, that data are the values which we collect from our research work. The data is basically of two types, qualitative and quantitative. In qualitative data, there are two types, nominal and ordinal. When there is an order like mild, moderate, severe, or kind of like I have given you example from Ayurveda also, Ayoga, Samyak Yoga, Ati Yoga. So these things are in order. So that is a ordinal data. When there is no order, everything is at same level, but only categories, that is called as nominal data. And then we saw the numerical data, where again there are two types, continuous and discrete. So going one level further, now we will see what is ratio level of measurement. So in statistics, not only data types, but one more thing is important, that is called as level of measurement. So when we talk about statistics, we don't have to just consider the data types, but also the level of measurement. So whatever data types we have seen so far, for nominal data, the level of measurement is also considered as nominal. We don't have to ask questions for certain things, like why nominal data is the level of measurement is also nominal, because statisticians have worked on this for years together. And if we have to go into details, we have to have 10 lectures or a whole session, whole series only on statistics. So like for nominal data, the level of measurement is also nominal. For ordinal data, the level, it is simple for us also. For ordinal data, the level of measurement is ordinal. For continuous data only, we have two types of levels of measurement. And for discrete data, the level of measurement is nominal. So we treat the discrete data also as per the nominal data. So the level of measurement is something different than data types. But for us, good news is ordinal data level of measurement is also ordinal. For nominal data, level of measurement is nominal. And discrete data is also treated as the level of measurement of discrete data is also nominal. Only in case of continuous data, we have two levels of measurements. One is ratio level and another one is interval level. So what is this ratio and interval level? Very simple, that when you have absolute zero in data, you can have an absolute zero, then you call the level of measurement as ratio. And when there is no absolute zero, then we call that level of measurement as interval. We will take examples and it will be clear to you. Let us take example of IQ. So do you think that somebody will have zero IQ? Will it be possible? No. So there is no absolute zero in case of IQ. Or if you take temperature, so we know, we have learned basic physics and chemistry, that we know that a particular temperature is termed as zero. It is like, we call it in Ayurveda, no, we have shlokas like sattvam iti abhidhiyate or something. Iti abhidhiyate means it is termed as, it is not actually the thing, but it is termed as. So temperature zero means there is nothing like absolute zero, but this particular temperature is known as zero temperature. If you remember the physics or chemistry in the school days or in the 11, 12 standard. So temperature is also an arbitrary zero. It is not actual zero. So these kind of measurements where there is no absolute zero, they are called as interval level of measurement. And when there is absolute zero present, then we call it as ratio level of measurement. For example, let us take weight. So there can be something that there is a weightless, so zero weight, there is no weight. So that is a absolute zero. But in case of temperature, time, IQ, time, we know that whenever we say like from where the time counting has started, we take that as zero and then we do BC and AD. If we shift that, then we have different times, like from where we have started counting the time, we are talking like this is 21st AD and whatever. But if we go like a little behind, then it can be like today's 21 AD can become 22 AD or 28th AD. So, you know, there is no absolute zero. It starts from where you start counting. And that's why these are the two different levels of measurement for only and only in case of continuous data. Otherwise, the levels of measurements are same as the data types are. Now, why it is important for us to know the data type? Why we have to do this whole thing? Because the type of data which is collected in a study determines the way in which data is to be presented and the type of statistical analysis used. So for these both things, like how you will present the data, whether you will present it in a table format, whether you will present it in graph format, and if graph, then which graph you will use, that everything depends on the type of data. And further, the statistical analysis which you will be doing, that also depends on type of data. That means if you have collected nominal data, the test which will be applied on nominal data are different than the test which will be applied on ordinal data. And that's why we have to make it very fixed in our mind that which type of data I am going to collect from my research study. And this is a very first exercise that every MD student should do. Which type of data I am collecting? This question everyone has to ask themselves. And in your thesis or in your dissertation, it is not necessary that you are collecting only one type of data. You are giving, suppose let us assume that your research is on effect of women on shwas, so bronchial asthma patients, and with special reference to bronchial asthma, say for example. So when you give women, you will have atiyo, vayo, samyak yog, this kind of data which you will collect. As I have told you, that is it is a ordinal data. You will have pulmonary function test, so that will be a quantified thing, a measurement, so it is a continuous data. So we have to understand that in thesis, in research work, it is not it is not like that you should collect only one type of data. You will always have various kind of data, and as per the data type you have to apply different statistical tests. So this is the whole crux, that why we have to learn these data types, the levels of measurements and everything. Another thing which I want to make it clear, that these are the levels of measurement, and I have shown them on staircase. Like on every step, I have shown one data or level of measurement. So you can see that nominal data is at the base. Then ordinal data is little higher than that. Interval data is further higher, and where you have absolute zero, that kind of quantitative data is the topmost data or the best quality data. Now, if you are collecting the quantitative data in your thesis, please don't change into nominal or ordinal thing. How people do that? You might have seen this, but we don't realize. We have collected like glucose values. We have estimated, we were doing some work on sugar. Suppose in diabetic patients, we are working. So pre and post treatment sugar data we have. Now we can show it is in numbers. So it is a good quality, interval quality or ratio quality of data measurement. But what people do, they collect the data and then divide the individuals as hypoglycemic, normoglycemic, hyperglycemic, or after collecting weight, underweight, normal weight, overweight, obese, right? So this kind of category, change of category, like you have numbers, but now you are changing it to the ordinal category. That is not desired, that is not required. Basically, because ordinal data is of low quality data. When we do not have actual measurement, we consider ordinal as a data level, or we, collect the data in an ordinal form. We do not have any instrument to measure pain. That's why we, give categories mild, moderate, severe, and we say that something like mild means the person is able to do his routine activities only while moving, he has pain. So we, try to develop something. Just imagine that if we would have some instrument where in which if we just place our leg and can find out that okay, this is a 10 level of pain, this is 8 kind of some 8 unit of pain, then why will we ask patients? Then we will go for that instrument. But for such kind of things we do not have instruments, and that's why we create these categories. Another thing is, after collecting ordinal data, sometimes we give numbers to it. For example, mild pain is 1, moderate pain is 2, and severe pain is 3. But that doesn't make that ordinal data as a numerical data because it is an arbitrary number. You never know that the difference between 1 and 2 is exactly equal to difference between 2 and 3. That means mild and moderate pain, whatever difference is there, you don't know that whether that the difference between moderate to severe is also same. But when you collect the numerical data, hemoglobin 11.1, hemoglobin 11.2, whatever difference is there is the same difference between 11.2 and 11.3. So this kind of situation never happens in ordinal data, though you number it. So treat the ordinal data as ordinal data only. Don't consider it as a numerical data only because you have given it numbers. So these are the basic things which we have to remember about the data types and the levels of measurement. Now going further to data presentation, we have understood what are different data types. Now we will see how to present the data, and what I have told you that each type of data has to be presented in a different way. You cannot use one method for presenting all types of data. The first and very simple way of presenting data is table. Right, everybody must have done these kind of tables sometime in their life. So what are the different components of table? There is a title of table, then there are column headers, then there are row stubs, and then you present the data in this part, and then there are some footnotes, and if you have taken the table from somewhere else, you give the source also. So this is how table is represented. So uh, as I have told you that there has to be a title, then right justify numbers in table. So you have to have the numbers on the right side of the each cell. Then use commas to delineate thousands. If you have 1000, then you have to, delineate. That means after 1, you have to give a comma, and then you have to put 3 zeros. Use numerical signs to signpost the table viewer like percent, dollar. You must have seen that when statistical significance is shown, these kind of signs are used. And in the footnote, you have to give the explanation of those signs. Always use the same number of decimal places. Means what? If you have shown the weight as 11.2, then it is a one digit after decimal, 0.2. So everywhere in the table, you use only one digit after the decimal. If you are showing the results as 11.234, that means after decimal, you have used 3 numbers. So throughout the table, you have to use three numbers. Then use grid lines to separate table elements, and use italics and bold to identify column headings. So now I am showing you 2 tables, like this is one table. Some poverty rate is shown in counties of England. So county A, county B, county C, and county D, and whatever is a percentage poverty rate. And as I have told you, they have given the source also, 2000 census. And then there is the same data which is shown in a different way, like poverty rates, county, and percent poverty. So can you tell me which table is good? Any comment on this, that which table is good?
Above, ma'am, above.
Yes, madam.
तो ऊपर है टेबल क्यों वेरिएशन with percentage marks.
अभी क्या है पॉइंट यहाँ कि अब आपने यहाँ काउंटी लिखा है, राइट? तो आपको यहाँ नीचे सिर्फ ABCD लिखते थे तो भी चलता था. यू डोंट हैव टू राइट अगेन काउंटी A, काउंटी B, काउंटी C, राइट? अगेन परसेंट पॉवर्टी लिखा है तो यहाँ परसेंटेज साइन लगाने की फिर से जरूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज यू हैव रिटन अबव परसेंट पॉवर्टी. So these are the mistakes in this table, but it has the grid lines, means all lines are there. In this table, there are no lines, but in case of percent poverty, they have removed the percent sign. You know, some things are good here, some things are good here. But none of the table is perfect, because once you have given the title county, you should just have ABCD. And then percent poverty, these numbers, and then make it as a table. Have all the lines, the grid lines, and make the table complete. So these are the simple things, but we make mistakes in this. So Going further, like use charts if you want to show like comparison, how much which item is bigger or smaller, changes over time. If you don't want to show anything sort of this, then you can use table. But if you want to show comparison, change over time, frequency distribution, correlation, relative share of a whole, so in these all cases you use charts. And we will see like what are the, first we will see what are the components of chart. Then there are data components that present the data as bar, lines, areas, or points. Then there is support components like title, legend, data labels, grid lines, footnote, data source. So these are the support documents. And then there are decorative features that are not related to data. So these are the different components of chart. And this is the thing, like as I have told you, that not every data is shown with all kind of graphs and charts. So for nominal data, if there is a single set of data, then you can use frequency and relative frequency tables, bar and pie charts, pictogram, map diagram. And if you want to show relationship between two tables, then two variables, then there are contingency table, bar charts. And I'm going to show you the examples of this. And for interval data, there are different types of display for single data set. And if there is a relationship to be shown, then scatter diagram, line diagram, these are the different ways how you present data. So this is a bar diagram. You must have drawn it sometime in your life. So this is bar diagram, a simple bar diagram. You can show the bars even horizontal, and you can have this kind of bar diagram also. Now I am showing you one good example and one bad example of bar diagram. What is the difference that in both the charts, adolescent fertility rate is shown, but in the right side graph, they are arranged in ascending order. So it looks good, you know. It is just a matter of fact that you can immediately point out like which country has adolescent fertility rate maximum, or which country has the lowest adolescent fertility rate. But after looking at the left side data, we cannot make it very immediately, I mean, clear. Now, Georgia and Romania, look at these two countries. So in bad example, it is very difficult to make out the difference between these two. But on the right side table, it is very easy to make out the difference because now the data has been arranged in a ascending order. So we can make it clear that Georgia has a more adolescent fertility rate. I hope this is clear. Then pie chart. So you must have seen this kind of charts also, that suppose we want to show that employment rate by major sectors. Let us take example from Ayurveda. If in a given population, I want to show that how many are of Vata Prakriti, how many Pitta, how many Kapha, then I can have this kind of pie diagram. So pie means the part of the whole thing. So of 100, this whole circle represents 100. And of that, how many are of which sector or which category, that is shown. Now we should not show the pie chart like this. When there are too many pieces, you should not use pie chart, because it is not making any sense. You will agree with me that this pie chart is clear, but when the pieces increase, we should not use the pie chart. Now bad example and good example again. So this is a 3D thing, and this is a simple 2D thing, like kind of. So this is a better suggested or better version of pie diagram. And we should not generally, what people feel, you know, that if I show something different, or if I make some changes in this kind of presentation, then this will look better, this kind of thing. But actually, by default, you should show this pie diagram as a, not as a 3D thing, but as a simple thing, which will make your data clear. You don't have to, means you are talking now about data, you are talking about statistics. So your whatever art and whatever, you know, drawing skills, they come afterwards. First thing should be the data. Then pictogram, you must have seen these kind of figures also, that favorite school lunch. So how many students, each picture represents 2 students. So pizza is like, you can see 4.5. So there are almost 9 students who like pizza. Then chicken nuggets, breakfast. So this is a way how you can present some data pictorial, in a pictorial way. Then this is And I mean, this also you must have seen even for, you must be seeing this daily also in a, news it is shown, like in which part of the country there will be rainfall and all. So this is a very commonly used thing. And in disease prevalence, disease incidence also, these things are used, that where there is a red color, there is a malaria risk, and if there is no risk of malaria, then those countries are shown in a different color. So this is also a kind of chart or diagram which you use for data presentation. Then I have talked about contingency table. So this is a contingency table, how you can show, the data. If you have some patients which are who are treated with ciproflox and not treated with ciproflox, and then how many of them are cured, how many of them are not cured. So you can take any example, that there are some patients who are treated say with Tribhuvan Kirti, and fever is reduced, not reduced, and you can make this kind of table. This is known as contingency table, and this is known as 2 by 2 contingency table, because there are two options in case of treatment, that treated and not treated, and there are two options in terms of outcome also, cured and not cured. So 2 by 2, that's why this table is called as 2 by 2 contingency table. Then these all things were for the nominal data, but if you want to show the continuous data, then you have to use different kind of diagrams, and one of the diagrams is histogram. So now you can see that there is no gap. As I have told you, in case of continuous data, there is no gap. So like how many students have achieved the points between 0 to 10, then 10 to 20 how many, 20 to 30 how many. So this is a continuous thing, and there is no gap, and on y-axis number of students have been shown, and you can make out from this graph that maximum students have secured marks between 50 to 60. So this is how you should show the data, that it makes some sense and easily a person who is seeing the graph can understand. And then these are the versions, like of from this graph, if you connect the midpoints of these all bars, then that is called as frequency polygon. And then there is if you remove the bars and only show this kind of line, which is derived from actually connecting the midpoints of this histogram, then it is called as frequency curve. So these are the different ways how you can show your data. Then there is a cumulative frequency curve. Now, for example, in COVID, like how many patients were, how much mortality was recorded in first wave, second wave, and then if you have to make a cumulative thing, like in total, how many things have, how many events happened, then you can draw a cumulative frequency curve, and that is also known as ogive. So this is also a kind of data presentation, and now you will realize that how less types of these presentations we use to show our data. Okay, so we have to learn to use all these data presentation types for our research for different purpose. And one thing we have to remember very clearly, that for different types of data we use different types of presentation. Now again, this is a histogram, and then there is a stem and leaf, which I have shown. This is very rarely we use in our studies. But suppose we have values like 0 0.2, 0 0.4, 1.2, 1.4, 2.3, 8.9, whatever. So hemoglobin value, in case of hemoglobin, 0 won't come. But let us assume that hemoglobin value starts from 6.3, 6.8, 8.4, 8.9, 7 point whatever. So in that case, whatever you say, like 6.7 points, in that 6 becomes your stem, and whatever values you have obtained with 6, like 6.1, 6.2, so you use them as leaf, and you have to just write them in front of 6. So even looking at this, you can understand that maximum values are in which range. So 0 point, there are maximum values compared to the other value types. So this is how applicability of different types of data presentation skills, and from that also how a good statistician can make some inferences. You are only looking at this stem and leaf chart, I can see like there are maximum people having 0 point values in 0 point something, and the least values are in the range of 6 point something. So these are few observations which we can immediately make from this Rayman leaf plot. So we should use appropriate kind of diagram for our data presentation. Then there is a line chart where you want to show that over a time how things change. So to show that, here you can see 1920, 30, 40. So how the things changed. Here it is shown as a county's total population. So from 1920, how the population increased up to 2000, that is shown. Now what people do, for Vata, Pitta, Kapha also they draw kind of line diagram. Like Vata हमारे स्टडी में 30 है, पित्त 40 है और कफा 50 है, तो उनको ऐसे टाइम्स लाइन डायग्राम से जोड़ देते हैं, लाइन से जोड़ देते हैं. दैट इज नॉट अ राइट वे, बिकॉज लाइन डायग्राम इज टू बी यूज्ड फॉर द टाइम ट्रेंड्स, not for anything which you feel. So these are the decided things that which kind of data has to be presented with which kind of chart. So we have to use those kind of things. Now in one graph you can show two kind of statistics also. Now what is shown here, that suicide and long-term unemployment in Japan. So the green line is of long-term unemployment rate and suicide rate is shown in blue line. So both things are being shown in one diagram, and you can make it like if the unemployment rate was increasing, whether accordingly there was increase in suicidal rate. So this is how you can show the things with line diagram, and you can have a different kind of statistics to show. But if you want to show time trend between two different categories, like over the time, whether weight reduced and whether glucose levels improved. This is for our example, I mean for medical field, our field, which is where this is also we can consider medical, but more close to it, more close to us, that weight decreased and thereby insulin resistance came down and glucose improved. I mean glucose went down. So this is also you can show that if the weight decreased, whether the glucose levels also decrease with it. That you can show with line diagrams. Then this is the same thing like world demand and world oil prices. I'm not going to go into detail of this, but this is how you can show on in one graph two parameters. So whether when the world demand of oil increase, whether the oil prices increase. If that kind of relation we want to show you, we can use these kind of line diagrams, and you can show that there is a time trend. So if there is a time trend, then only you have to use line diagram, otherwise no. And this is a wrong way how you should not put any graph in any case. Like you can see on the right side, the y and x axis are meeting at 95. So remember that the axis should always meet at 0, and they should not meet arbitrarily at any point. Because if you see right side, you can see like it is showing some increase. But if you make it like, if the graph starts from 0, if the axis meet at 0, then there is no much difference over the time points. This is a tactic how people show, but we should not show it like this. Always the axis should meet at 0. And this is a scatter diagram. When we want to show a relationship between two things, like here it is shown as underweight prevalence and under 5 mortality. So when there is a underweight, the situation of underweight, whether there is a mortality, that is how it is shown here. So in different countries of sub-Saharan Africa, it is shown that when there is a underweight prevalence increases, whether there is a under 5 mortality also increases. And if you draw a line between these two, you will see that there is a line which we can draw and which is going upwards. So that means under 5 mortality increases when underweight prevalence increases. So this was about data types and data presentation. So if you have any query on this, you can ask me, and then we can have a small thing on sample size calculation and sampling methods.
Dr. Taranum?
Madam, should I start another one, or we are going to take some questions here?
Ma'am, related to this topic, I think we should take these questions related
Yes.
to this topic. Dr. Tarannu, are you here?
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
And
Hello.
Is there any questions? Is there any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Shalini, ma'am. A very good evening to all the respected teachers and all the participants. I, Dr. Tarannu, JR First of Prasuti Tantra एवं स्त्री रोग Department, RSC Lucknow. I would like to thank Vish Ayurved Parishad for giving me such opportunity. Thank you so much, Dr. Supriya, ma'am, for the enlightening speech. It is very helpful and very informative for me and all the PG students. As Dr. Supriya, ma'am, has explained this topic very generously and made it easy for us to understand such different difficult topics. Now, start the question session. The first question is from Dr. Nisha Rena. She wants to know what is the difference between prevalence and incidence. Ma'am, over to you.
Okay. So, as the term indicates, prevalence means the things prevail over a long time. Okay. And incidence means the things happen and then it may not remain throughout. Like COVID cases, COVID happens and COVID get cured or COVID patients may die. But it is not possible that the person is COVID positive for years together. This is not a situation. But if you talk about diabetes, then a person can be diabetic for 10 years, person can be diabetic for 15 years. So in these diseases, what we calculate is prevalence, and incidence is new cases which are getting added to the disease or the statistics, the data. Okay, so that is a difference.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope this explanation will help you, Dr. Nisha Rena, regarding your query. Now, next question is from Dr. Sivraj Dhaneshwar. Ma'am, he wants to ask, explain the formula to calculate sample size in clinical research.
I have not yet touched upon the sample size thing. I am going to talk about that in a small time.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
if there are questions about sample size and sampling, then we can take them after the second presentation. But if there are any questions regarding data types, data presentation types, then we can take it now. If no, then we can
Ma'am,
finish the
first
other thing.
question. One question from my side. That you said मतलब pain vast scale है, vast pain के लिए vast scale, तो उसमें 0 to 1 तो नंबर ही आते हैं. तो अगर हम vast scale में नंबरिंग ले रहे हैं तो वो ऑर्डिनल में आएगा या फिर डिस्क्रीट डाटा में आएगा?
ये ऑर्डिनल डेटा है मैडम. दिस इज ऑर्डिनल डेटा.
ऑर्डिनल डेटा में ही आएगा.
यस, ये ऑर्डिनल डेटा है और हमें जब भी स्टैटिस्टिक्स लगाते हैं तभी भी उसको ऑर्डिनल डेटा जैसे ही ट्रीट करना है. We shouldn't consider this as a numerical data. No.
Okay.
Because as I told you that there is no instrument to measure, like pain measurement का instrument कोई नहीं. It is a subjective thing which we are asking patients. 0 to 10 पे mark करो is also subjective thing.
मैम ऐसे नेट डिसेबिलिटी इंडेक्स जो है वो भी हम अगर टेस्ट करते हैं तो दैट इज आल्सो ऑर्डिनल डाटा और दैट विल बी
Which one, madam?
सब्जेक्टिव. नेट डिसेबिलिटी इंडेक्स.
Yes, any scale, any yes, yeah, as you have rightly pointed out, any scale, any scoring pattern, any I mean, whatever you scale, grade, all those are ordinal data types.
Okay. And can you please repeat cumulative frequency?
Cumulative frequency, that means suppose in first, like let us take statistics of COVID, and I will explain you with the example of COVID-19 because it is very, now everybody knows, like suppose how many patients cured from January to March. Let us take like 10 patients got cured in your hospital. Then March to May, how many got cured? So let us say 5 more got cured. So now the cumulative frequency becomes 15. Then May to whatever, June, July, how many got cured? So you add that to your the number which you have calculated. So you keep on adding, you keep on accumulating, and that is called as cumulative frequency.
Now,
yeah. So should I start with? I mean, I will just touch upon the things because it is like too much.
One question. Ma'am, one question is from Dr. Deep Mala. Is BMI is a categorical or numerical data?
now for Dr. Deep, no?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Deepa. Sorry.
Dr. Deepa. So she
Yes, ma'am.
only can understand that here the BMI can be any number like 12.2, 12.3, 50.4, 50.5. So it is a continuous data type. It is a numerical data and it is a continuous kind of data because it can take any value. There is all values are possible in case of BMI. So it is a continuous kind of data. Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope Dr. Deepmala, you got your answer. Now, ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
So now what I'm going to do, because it is a very complicated topic, so I'm just going to sensitize you all and I'm not going to, go into much details of this. So sampling and sample size. So first of all, we have to understand that the terminologies like what is population, what is sample, and data types we have already seen. So I'm not going to go into the data types, but population and sample. So population is entire unit about which information is sought. That means it is not a population which we talk in general, that how much is a population of Lucknow is not the thing which we are talking here. But if we are interested in diabetes, then all diabetic patients become our population. So entire set about which information is sought is population and not the one which we collect during the census. वो population के बारे में हम बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. पॉपुलेशन मीन्स हमारे लिए जो इंटरेस्ट के लोग हैं उनको हम पॉपुलेशन कहेंगे. इफ आई एम वर्किंग ऑन संधिवात, देन ऑल ऑस्टियोआर्थराइटिस पेशेंट्स विल बिकम पॉपुलेशन फॉर मी. देन सैंपल इज व्हाट? द सबसेट ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन, अ सबसेट ऑफ अ पॉपुलेशन. दैट मीन्स पॉपुलेशन में से हम थोड़े लोगों को उठाएंगे और उनको हम बोलेंगे कि सैंपल. और उसको सैंपल हम क्यों बोलते हैं? बिकॉज फ्रॉम सैंपल वी कैन हैव सम प्रेडिक्शन अबाउट द पॉपुलेशन. अगर ये लोगों में ऐसी सिचुएशन है तो इट इज मोस्ट लाइकली दैट होल पॉपुलेशन विल बिहेव लाइक दिस बिकॉज वी हैव टेकन द सैंपल फ्रॉम पॉपुलेशन ओनली. सो हमारे यहाँ मराठी में एक कहावत है कि अगर हम चावल पका रहे हैं तो उसमें से एक हम ग्रेन खा के ही पता कर सकते हैं कि पूरा चावल पक गया है या नहीं पक गया है. बिकॉज इट इज इजी फॉर अस, लाइक एक चावल को खा के देखे और वो पक गया है पूरी तरह से, तो पूरा चावल पकने के चांसेस बहुत ज्यादा है. सो यहाँ जो मैं एक चावल का दाना लेती हूँ, दैट इज सैंपल, एंड आई प्रेडिक्ट अबाउट द होल चावल, दैट इज पॉपुलेशन. सो पॉपुलेशन और सैंपल का ये रिलेशन है. एंड इन मोस्ट स्टडीज इट इज डिफिकल्ट टू ऑब्टेन इंफॉर्मेशन फ्रॉम द एंटायर पॉपुलेशन. जैसे हम लखनऊ सिटी की ही बात करेंगे तो मान लीजिए कि लखनऊ सिटी की पॉपुलेशन है 5 लाख और उसमें हमारा इंडिया का डायबिटीज प्रिवेलेंस रेट है ऑलमोस्ट 10%. ऑफ 5 लाख में से 50,000 लोगों को डायबिटीज है लखनऊ सिटी में. क्या हम वो 50,000 लोगों के पास पहुंच सकेंगे फॉर अवर क्लिनिकल स्टडी? डेफिनेटली नॉट. सो हम उनमें से कुछ लोगों को सिलेक्ट करेंगे जिसको हम सैंपल बोलेंगे. We rely on samples to make estimates or inferences related to population based on the sample. And that's why sample should be representative of population and it should be homogeneous. Means जब हम आप sample पे काम करते हैं, population से तो उठाते ही है, इसलिए वो population को represent करती है. लेकिन हम जो inclusion, exclusion criteria लगाते हैं, बनाते हैं, वो किस लिए? कि हमारा सैंपल जो है वो होमोजीनस होना चाहिए. अगर हम डायबिटीज पे काम कर रहे हैं और किसी की शुगर है 300, किसी की शुगर है 150, किसी की शुगर है मान लीजिए 210, तो हर एक में रिजल्ट्स भी अलग अलग मिलने वाले हैं. इसलिए हम डिसाइड करते हैं कि वी विल टेक द पेशेंट्स हु हैव ब्लड शुगर बिटवीन 126 टू से 150, 160, whatever you decide. So you set an inclusion exclusion criteria to make the population homogeneous. आपने अगर ये क्राइटेरिया बहुत ही स्ट्रिंजेंट बनाए कि मैं इन्हीं पेशेंट को लूंगी, अगर आपने बहुत हाईली सिलेक्टिव पेशेंट रिक्रूटमेंट किए, बहुत 10-12 पॉइंट लगा दिए इंक्लूजन एक्सक्लूजन में, तो आपका जो सैंपल होगा वो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ पॉपुलेशन नहीं होगा. बट एट द सेम टाइम अगर आप बहुत सारे लोगों को इंक्लूड करने की परमिशन देते हो तो आपका सैंपल होमोजीनस नहीं होगा. So you have to be very particular when you are drafting your inclusion exclusion criteria. Many times हमें ऐसे लगता है वो क्या लिख देना है inclusion exclusion criteria. ऐसी बात नहीं है, उस पर बहुत सारी चीजें डिपेंडेंट है कि हम क्यों वो इंक्लूजन और एक्सक्लूजन क्राइटेरिया लिखते हैं. तो बी वेरी केयरफुल व्हेन यू सिलेक्ट योर इंक्लूजन एक्सक्लूजन क्राइटेरिया. तो अभी हमें ये पता चला कि एक पूरी पॉपुलेशन है, उसमें से हम सैंपल लेने वाले हैं, और उसके लिए हमें कुछ तो मेथड लगानी चाहिए ना, क्योंकि हम 50,000 जो डायबिटिक पेशेंट्स है लखनऊ में, उसमें से 50 पेशेंट हमारे स्टडी के लिए कैसे लेंगे? व्हाट इज अ मेथड बाय विच वी विल सिलेक्ट दोस 50 पेशेंट्स एंड नॉट द एंटायर थिंग? सो फॉर दैट व्हाटएवर मेथड्स वी यूज आर नोन एज सैम्पलिंग मेथड्स. और क्यों हमें सैम्पलिंग करना है ये तो हमें पता चला है कि गेट इन्फॉर्मेशन अबाउट लार्ज पॉपुलेशन इन लेस कॉस्ट, इन लेस फिल टाइम, मोर एक्यूरेसी, दैट इज कैन डू अ बेटर जॉब ऑफ डेटा कलेक्शन. क्योंकि 50,000 में अगर मैंने एक स्टूडेंट को बोला कि आपके 1.5 साल के एमडी थीसिस में आपको 50,000 पेशेंट्स का डेटा करना है, तो इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल. बट उसको मैं अगर 50 स्टूडेंट्स का बोलती हूँ तो ही कैन डू अ बेटर जॉब ऑफ डेटा कलेक्शन. एंड व्हेन इट इज इम्पॉसिबल टू स्टडी द होल पॉपुलेशन, कभी कभी ऐसे भी होता है कि होल पॉपुलेशन इज अवेलेबल. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी जो सेमिनार चल रहा है, वेबिनार चल रहा है, तो मुझे अगर स्टूडेंट्स को पूछना है, मुझे अगर एक स्टडी करना है कि हाउ दे फाइंड दिस वर्कशॉप, हाउ दे फाइंड दिस वेबिनार, तो है कितने स्टूडेंट्स रजिस्टर हुए, मैक्सिमम 200 हो गए, 300 हो गए. आई कैन रीच टू दोस 300. एक में ईमेल डाल देती हूँ, एक में व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बना देती हूँ और सबको मैं एक मैसेज भेज देती हूँ कि लेट मी नो योर ओपिनियन. तो आई कैन रीच टू होल पॉपुलेशन. बट इट इज वेरी लेस लाइकली दैट वी कैन रीच टू द होल पॉपुलेशन, एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी हैव टू डू सैम्पलिंग. नाउ सैम्पलिंग में दो मेन टाइप्स है, एक प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग एंड एक है नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग. सो प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग क्या है कि हर एक को इक्वल चांस है बीइंग गेटिंग सिलेक्टेड. देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी फॉर ईच पर्सन इन अ पॉपुलेशन टू बी सिलेक्टेड. एंड नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी क्या है कि इक्वल चांसेस आर नॉट गिवन. वी स्पेसिफिकली सिलेक्ट द इंडिविजुअल्स. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर मुझे अब भी ऐसा स्टडी करना है कि आप लोगों को मेरा लेक्चर अच्छा लगा या नहीं लगा, ओके तो मैं क्या कर सकती हूँ कि मेरे स्क्रीन पे जाके आप सब लोगों के नाम मुझे दिख रहे हैं, तो मैं बोलूंगी मैं अल्टरनेट सेकंड नाम सिलेक्ट करूंगी और मैं उनको पूछूंगी कि आपका मेरे लेक्चर के बारे में क्या ओपिनियन है. तो यहाँ प्रोबेबिलिटी है कि जो कोई, अभी आप लोगों को भी पता नहीं कि मेरे स्क्रीन पे कैसे दिख रहा है, सेकंड नंबर किसका आ रहा है. सो एवरीबडी हैज इक्वल चांस टू गेट सिलेक्टेड बिकॉज यू डोंट नो लाइक हु विल गेट सिलेक्टेड. लेकिन मैंने अगर ऐसे बोला कि ये जो ऑडियंस सुन रहा है मेरा लेक्चर, उसमें से जो मुझे पहचानते हैं और जो या मैं जिनको पहचानती हूँ उनको ही मैं पूछूंगी. तो ऐसे अगर मैंने डिक्लेयर कर दिया तो डॉक्टर तरन्नुम बोलेगी अच्छा हुआ, मुझे मैडम पहचानती नहीं है, मैं मैडम को पहचानती नहीं है, तो मेरा सिलेक्शन तो होगा ही नहीं. और अभी मान लीजिए कि मैं तो सिर्फ मेरे लेक्चर के बारे में पूछ रही हूँ. अगर मैंने ऐसे बोला कि जिसका मैं नाम लूंगी उसको गाना गाना पड़ेगा, और अगर मैं ऐसा डिक्लेयर करती हूँ कि जो मुझे जानते हैं वही गाना गाएंगे, तो जो मुझे नहीं जानते वो बहुत ही खुश हो जाएंगे कि चलो मुझे गाना नहीं गाना पड़ रहा है, यू नो. सो नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी सैंपल एवरीबडी डजंट गेट इन इक्वल चांस बट टारगेट स्पेसिफिक कि मुझे जो पसंद है, मुझे जो पहचानते हैं, तो ये टारगेट हो गया. सो दिस इज अ नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग. तो सैम्पलिंग आप करते हो तो प्रोबेबिलिटी एंड नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी आर द टू मेन टाइप्स. एंड इन प्रोबेबिलिटी also you have different subtypes like systematic samples, probability cluster, stratified, simple random. So पहले तो है simple random. सिंपल रैंडम सैम्पलिंग यानी क्या कि आप डिसाइड करते हो कि जैसे मैंने बोला कि एवरी थर्ड पर्सन, एवरी फोर्थ पर्सन, वॉट एवर इट इज, लाइक अगर मुझे पता चला कि 200 पार्टिसिपेंट्स रजिस्टर हुए हैं तो मैं 200 के नाम के चिट्स बनाऊंगी और उसमें से जो जिसका नंबर आएगा, चौथी चिट जो होगी वो गाना गाएगा. सो दिस इज लाइक सिंपल रैंडम सैम्पलिंग. और हर एक चीज के कुछ एडवांटेजेस है, कुछ डिसएडवांटेजेस है. जैसे मैंने अगर डिसाइड किया कि मैं 28th, 48th, then 68th, मैं किसको सिलेक्ट करूंगी. इफ आई डिसाइड सम रैंडमली सिलेक्शन, यानी सिंपल रैंडम मीन्स मैं चिट डालूंगी और किसी को भी उठाऊंगी, तो सिंपल रैंडम सैम्पलिंग हो गया वो कि ये नंबर सिलेक्ट हो जाएंगे. There are table of random numbers also, computer generated tables also, so you can decide and you can pick up the population, pick up the samples. like 50,000 में से मैं किनको 50 को select करूँ, तो simple random method में use करके 50 sample I can collect. So there are advantages and disadvantages. Due to lack of time I'm not going to read this. If you want I will leave this PPT with you all. Then systematic sampling. सिस्टमैटिक सैम्पलिंग में पहले सैम्पलिंग का क्या है कि मैं चीट सिर्फ ये करूंगी और जो नंबर पिकअप हो गए वो नंबर को मैं इन करूंगी। लेकिन सिस्टमैटिक सैम्पलिंग में ऐसे है कि आई विल राइट डाउन ऑल द नंबर्स एंड देन आई विल सिलेक्ट लाइक मैं आफ्टर 10th नंबर एवरी 10th नंबर आई विल सिलेक्ट लाइक 200 लोग है ना, तो 10th 28th 38th 48th जो नंबर्स हो गए उनको मैं सिलेक्ट करूंगी। सो यू कैन सी 8 then 28 then 48. So after 20 I will select. It has its own advantages. I'm not going into these details. Stratified
Please mute
sampling.
yourself. Mute yourself, sir.
You want to like have like मुझे ना मेरे सैंपल में 10 वात प्रकृति के चाहिए, 10 पित्त प्रकृति के चाहिए, 10 कफ प्रकृति के चाहिए, या जो मैं सैंपल सिलेक्ट करूंगी 50 मुझे सिलेक्ट करना है तो मुझे 25 मेल्स चाहिए, 25 फीमेल्स चाहिए। So then I will have this strata, male and female are strata. I will call them as strata, or Prakruti will be my strata. Whatever strata I want to use, I can use. I can even say that who are born before 1990, born after 1990. Whatever strata I want to select, I can select, and accordingly from both the strata, like from males I will select few, I will use few, and from female side also I will pick up few. So this is a stratified sampling. So you will have equal number of male females, you will have equal numbers of vata pitta kapha prakriti. So this is the logic behind it. And then as I told, I'm not going to read this, but I'm just trying to explain you different types of sampling. And then there is a cluster sampling. So here the unit of sampling is not an individual but a cluster. Like let us take example that मुझे कोई रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी का नया ट्रेनिंग लेना है, नए टाइप का ट्रेनिंग आई एम इंट्रोड्यूसिंग। सो आई विल से लाइक मैं लखनऊ कॉलेज में ट्रेनिंग देती हूँ लेकिन मैं बनारस कॉलेज में नहीं देती हूँ। सो यहाँ इंडिविजुअल नहीं मैं सैंपल सिलेक्ट कर रही हूँ, तो मैं एक पूरा कॉलेज, एक यूनिट सिलेक्ट कर रही हूँ। So okay, so these are the probability sampling. Which are the probability sampling? Simple, that means very simple, that if 200 people are attending the course and I have to select 20, then I will randomly pick up few numbers. So it is a simple random simple sampling है वो एकदम। Then है systematic में मैं बोलूंगी कि मैं 10 20 30 40 ऐसे जिनके नंबर है उनको सिलेक्ट करूंगी। So every nth number I can even say 8, 18, 28, whatever I can decide. Then there is a stratified, that means male, female, prakriti wise. If I want to select equal number, then I will have stratified. And then I have cluster sampling, where I will sampling unit will be will not be an individual element but a large cluster of elements. So colleges, बहुत स्टूडेंट्स है, उनको मैं इस कॉलेज को उठाऊंगी, इस कॉलेज को नहीं उठाऊंगी। सो दैट इज अ क्लस्टर सैम्पलिंग। Okay, so these are the different probability sampling. And then there are so I have shown you this. So there are some non-probability sampling, and in non-probability sampling also we have convenience, judgment, snowball, and quota. So what are these? So convenience sample means जो मुझे available है, 50,000 लोग तो लखनऊ सिटी के मेरे कॉलेज के ओपीडी में आने वाले नहीं है, तो जो लोग मेरे कॉलेज के ओपीडी में आएंगे मीन्स जो मेरे लिए कन्वीनियंट है, मेरे पास वो अप्रोच हो रहे हैं, मुझे कहीं उठ के जाना भी नहीं है, सो दैट इज कन्वीनियंट फॉर मी। सो कन्वीनियंस सैंपल, वट एवर इज अवेलेबल टू मी इज कन्वीनियंस सैंपल। एंड देन देर इज अ जजमेंट और पर्पसिव सैंपल। सो जजमेंट और पर्पसिव सैंपल मीन्स व्हाट, कि मुझे जो एक्सपेक्टेड आउटकम है तो वो जो लोग फुलफिल करेंगे उनको ही मैं स्टडी में लूंगी। आई विल गिव यू एन एग्जाम्पल, कि जैसे मैंने बोला कि मुझे मेरे वर्कशॉप का मेरे लेक्चर का फीडबैक चाहिए। ओके अगर मैं सिंपल रैंडमाइजेशन करूंगी, स्ट्रेटिफाइड रैंडमाइजेशन करूंगी, तो मुझे पता नहीं कि जो लोग सिलेक्ट होंगे वो मेरे लेक्चर को अच्छा ही बोलेंगे या बुरा बोलेंगे। तो व्हाट आई विल डू कि आई विल आस्क डॉक्टर शालिनी, डॉक्टर तरन्नुम, डॉक्टर मनदीप, who are I know they will say at least to make me happy, they will say yeah मैडम का लेक्चर बहुत अच्छा था। So I want a good feedback, so I will take a purposive sample, that is a judgment or purposive sample. Then there is a quota sample. So nobody else but our country knows like what is quota and what is I mean for every sector there is a specific quota. So from this quota, these people will come, and there is no rational. Means if you ask me in cluster and quota, what is the difference? That is the biggest query. I mean confusion. Like वहाँ cluster है, यहाँ quota है, तो difference क्या है? तो cluster में we use some logic. कितने कॉलेजेस करने हैं, नॉर्थ के इतने लेने हैं, ईस्ट के इतने लेने हैं, वेस्ट के इतने लेने हैं. बट कोटा में ऐसे कुछ ये नहीं है. जैसे हमें पता है कि हमारे कंट्री में रिजर्वेशन सिस्टम अभी इसको चाहिए, अभी उसको चाहिए, अभी इसको चाहिए, तो ऐसे बनता गया. सो वी डिडंट हैव अ स्पेसिफिक ये, जैसे हमारे सामने मैटर आता गया, हम कोटा करके गए. So reservation का जो होता है quota is word which we use at many places, and we know the meaning of quota sampling. And then there is a snowball sampling. Now what is snowball sampling? I will give you a very nice example which you will immediately understand. That Vishwa Ayurved Parishad has taken one earlier seminar which was organized by Rajasthan branch. Okay, so that Rajasthan branch people told Lucknow branch that these people are good, you can invite them. So this is, the information just gets passed away. Okay, so likewise, how they selected us, how the resource person sample was selected, because it is a snowball sampling. इसने इसको बोला, उसने उसको बोला, उसने उसको बोला, और हम लोग अंदर आ गए. So this is a snowball sampling कि आप मैंने डॉक्टर तरन्नुम को इन किया, डॉक्टर तरन्नुम बोले मेरी एक फ्रेंड है, मैं उसको भी बुलाऊं क्या मैडम, तो वो भी आ गई और वो फ्रेंड की फ्रेंड भी आ गई. सो दिस इज हाउ snowball sampling works. This is a snowball sampling. So every sampling method has some advantages, has some disadvantages, and we have to select them based on our convenience. Majority of times, means though we have learned everything, we go by convenience sampling, because हम जब अपने कॉलेज में अपना एमडी या पीएचडी का काम करते हैं, हमारे पास इतने पेशेंट्स रहते नहीं है कि उनमें से हम कुछ सिलेक्ट करें, सैंपल निकालें और उनको यूज करें. हम जो पेशेंट आते हैं उनको अपने स्टडी में लेते हैं. सो वी जनरली यूज द कन्वीनियंट सैम्पलिंग मेथड, बट वी शुड नो ऑफ ऑल अदर सैम्पलिंग मेथड्स. नाउ देयर इज, अभी हमने क्या पता किया कि हाउ टू सिलेक्ट अ सैंपल फ्रॉम पॉपुलेशन, लेकिन कितना बड़ा सैंपल लेना है, हाउ मेनी. अभी तक हमने पढ़ा कि हमने सुना कि हाउ टू सिलेक्ट सैंपल, बट हाउ मेनी इंडिविजुअल शुड बी देयर इन द सैंपल, दैट इज नोन एज सैंपल साइज. कि हाउ मेनी पीपल, कितना बड़ा होना चाहिए सैंपल. 50,000 डायबिटिक पेशेंट्स है लखनऊ सिटी में, लेकिन मेरे स्टडी में कितने होने चाहिए, 50, 500, 5, कितने होने चाहिए. That number, how we calculate, that is known as sample size calculation or sample size determination. So the number of patients or number of individuals in study is known as sample size, and there are different methods how to calculate this sample size. Now यहाँ प्रॉब्लम ये है कि अगर हम ये सब शुरू करते हैं तो दिस इज गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी बिग लेक्चर इन इटसेल्फ. सो मैं क्या करने वाली हूँ, आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू गिव यू, एज आई हैव टोल्ड इन द बिगिनिंग, कि एक प्राइमर, यानी ये चीजें होती है सैंपल कलेक्शन के लिए, तो वो हम सिर्फ जानेंगे कि कौन से चीजों पे सैंपल साइज डिपेंडेंट रहती है. So as I have told you, sample size is number of individuals in a group under study. Why to decide sample size? Because too small sample size है, though we may not be able to confirm or refute our hypothesis, it may not detect difference between two groups. And अगर बहुत ज़्यादा ली तो unnecessary waste of resources, money, manpower, time, and there will be ethical issue कि आपको इतनी बड़ी sample size क्यों लेनी चाहिए. अगर आपको 5 में रिजल्ट मिल रहा है तो आप 500 को क्यों ले रहे हो. So too small भी नहीं होनी चाहिए, too large भी नहीं होनी चाहिए sample size. How to decide sample size? तो imitate sample size of similar studies means ऐसे study पहले हो गए हैं तो उनमें क्या sample size use की है that we can use for our study. And generally in all Ayurvedic college people use 30 as a sample size because it is a very attractive number for everybody. That 30 किया तो बस हो गया. लेकिन मैं आपको उल्टा बोलना चाहती हूँ कि अगर आप सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेट करते हो तो मे बी इट इज पॉसिबल कि 30 से कम भी आपको पेशेंट चल जाएंगे, यानी आपका कम में भी हो सकता है अगर आपने सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेट की. सो माय सजेशन टू यू इज कैलकुलेट द सैंपल साइज, whether it is less than 30 or whether it is more than 30 is another thing, but first calculate sample size. और जब आप स्टडी करते हो, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ होता क्या है कि वी डू स्टडी with 30 as a sample size and we expect that in that 30 sample size every drug should show best effect, which is not possible because the sample size concept otherwise wouldn't have come only. Every study to show different effects need different sample size. So the whole concept of the sample size is that to show the differences. अगर आपके दो ड्रग्स है जिसमें बहुत ज्यादा डिफरेंस है तो आपको बहुत कम सैंपल साइज में भी वो दिख जाएगा क्योंकि दो ड्रग में बहुत ज्यादा डिफरेंस है। अगर दो ड्रग में बहुत कम डिफरेंस है तो आपको बहुत ज्यादा सैंपल साइज लगेगी, क्योंकि टू शो दैट माइन्यूट डिफरेंस यू हैव टू हैव अ लार्ज सैंपल साइज। लेकिन हम ये सब चीजों को इग्नोर करते हैं, हम 30 ये सैंपल साइज लेते हैं एंड ओवर अबाउट दैट वी वांट टू शो दैट our drug is effective. This is a very tricky thing. This is not going to happen. So what I will suggest you calculate sample size and keep it with you, even though you will use 30 as a sample size. And if at the end you don't get result, then you can always justify that actually for my study 300 was sample size, but for time constraint, money constraint, whatever constraint, I could do the study only in 30 patients. So I couldn't get the statistical significant difference or whatever difference was expected. So that will help you to justify your results. That's why everybody has to calculate sample size and should not imitate the sample size of similar studies. And then there were some nomograms, as it is called, as in the olden days. Many people used to use these nomograms, like उसमें values रहती थी. I have not carried a nomogram to show you, but जो अपने सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेशन के जो पैरामीटर्स है, तो डिफरेंट पैरामीटर्स के हिसाब से सैंपल साइज कैसे चेंज होगी और आपको कौन से पैरामीटर फिक्स करके सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेट करनी है, वो उसमें रेडी टेबल जैसे दिया होता था, और अप्लाई फॉर्मूला एंड कैलकुलेट. सो नाउ द होल क्रक्स इज दैट the sample size formula, there is no fixed one formula. Okay, so what kind of study you are doing, whether you are doing a descriptive study or you are doing a clinical trial, that is randomized controlled trial, that first you have to ask yourself. Then what is a variable of your data, numerical है या categorical है? अगर न्यूमेरिकल है तो डिफरेंट सैंपल साइज फॉर्मूला है, यानी आपको अभी पता, मींस अगर सिंपली बताना है तो डिस्क्रिप्टिव स्टडी न्यूमेरिकल डेटा एक स्टैटिस्टिकल फॉर्मूला है, डिस्क्रिप्टिव स्टडी कैटेगरिकल डेटा अलग फॉर्मूला है, आरसीटी न्यूमेरिकल डेटा अलग फॉर्मूला, आरसीटी कैटेगरिकल डेटा अलग फॉर्मूला. So you understand that it is a complex, means at least 4 formulae you have to learn for learning sample size calculation. And again, we have to remember that whatever sample size we get is for single group. What people do, if they get some value, say 40, then they consider that it is for, my study has 2 groups, तो 40 को 2 groups में divide कर देते हैं, 20-20. That is not the case. 40 आपको एक ग्रुप में यूज करना है और ऐसे 2 ग्रुप्स हैं, आपकी सैंपल साइज 80 हो गई. So this is also you have to remember. So this is the crux of sample size calculation, and I'm just going to show you descriptive numerical, descriptive categorical, RCT numerical, RCT categorical, how the sample size formula is different. So for sample size of descriptive studies where the variable of interest is continuous, that means numerical. So this is a sample size formula, Z square into S square divided by D square. And what this everything means. So now if I start explaining all these things, we have to take one lecture. But what is important here, that you have to understand your study type and what kind of variable you are working with. So if continuous or numerical, then this is a sample size calculation. And what is the example of this, which you have to remember, that what are the average weekly working hours of physicians working in critical care units. So आपको जानना है कि एवरेज वीकली वर्किंग आवर्स ऑफ फिजिशियंस जो क्रिटिकल केयर यूनिट में काम करते हैं वो क्या है, मींस हाउ मेनी आवर्स ऑफ वीक दे वर्क इन क्रिटिकल केयर यूनिट, ये आपको पता करना है. तो आपको कुछ डॉक्टर्स, कुछ सैंपल तो लेना पड़ेगा ना, कितने लोगों को पूछ के आप ये कंक्लूजन में आएंगे कि वर्किंग एवरेज वीकली वर्किंग आवर्स कितने हैं, ये आप कैसे डिसाइड करेंगे. तो आपको कुछ सैंपल तो लगेगा, आपको सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेट करनी पड़ेगी. तो ये सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेट करने के लिए आपको जो फॉर्मूला है वो ये फॉर्मूला है, क्योंकि यहाँ आप कोई क्लिनिकल ट्रायल नहीं कर रहे हो, आप तो कंटिन्यूअस वेरिएबल के साथ डिस्क्रिप्टिव स्टडी कर रहे हो. सो दिस इज लाइक हाउ यू कैलकुलेट. नाउ इफ द वेरिएबल इज डाइकोटोमस और कैटेगोरिकल, डाइकोटोमस मीन्स 2 कैटेगरीज है, अगर वैसे स्टडी के साथ आप कैटेगोरिकल स्टडी में काम कर रहे हो तो सैंपल साइज फॉर्मूला चेंजेस. In the earlier sample size, it was z square into a square divided by d square. यहाँ p into 1 minus p ऐसे formula change होता है. So the point to remember is, if you are even in descriptive study, if your variable change, if your data types change, your statistical formula change. And the example of this kind of study is 10% residents were absent due to, you want to find out that percentage of medical residents remaining absent because of infection. So कितने लोग इन्फेक्शन की वजह से कोविड-19 हो गया इसलिए absent है, ये आपको निकालना है. तो you have to first like ये जो डेटा है वो जो है वो डिस्क्रिप्टिव स्टडी है, क्योंकि हम यहाँ भी कोई क्लिनिकल ट्रायल नहीं कर रहे हैं. Just want to find out the percentage of medical residents who are remaining absent because of infection. So यहाँ क्या है, डिस्क्रिप्टिव स्टडी है, और यहाँ डेटा कैसे है, परसेंटेजेस में है, कैटेगरीज में है, absent and present. So it is category, and आपको जो सैंपल साइज फॉर्मूला यूज करना है वो ये होता है. So you know, as the descriptive study है, लेकिन when the variable change, your sample size formula changes. This is something you have to remember. This is a formula for case control and cohort studies, and these are very big formula, and we hardly do case control and cohort study. ये देख के मुझे भी पसीने आते हैं, तो I'm not actually trying to explain you also, means I'm not going to spend time on explaining these things. But what you have to remember कि जैसे केस कंट्रोल स्टडी आई तो फॉर्मूला अचानक से चेंज हो गया, कोहोर्ट स्टडी आई तो फॉर्मूला चेंज हो गया. सो अलग अलग स्टडी के लिए अलग अलग फॉर्मूला है. ये इतना भी आप आज के लेक्चर के बाद आपके दिमाग में फिक्स कर देंगे तो आप जब सैंपल साइज निकालेंगे तो आपको इजी रहेगा. लोग कैसे पूछते हैं, एवरी स्टूडेंट हु कम्स टू मी, मैडम मुझे प्रीवेलेंस पता नहीं है तो मैं सैंपल साइज कैसे कैलकुलेट करूं. लेकिन हर चीज के लिए प्रीवेलेंस इज नॉट नेसेसरी पैरामीटर फॉर कैलकुलेटिंग सैंपल साइज. देयर आर डिफरेंट इश्यूज विच वी नीड टू कंसिडर. सो आई एम गोइंग डायरेक्टली टू दिस जो कंपैरेटिव स्टडी है, रैंडमाइज कंपैरेटिव ट्रायल्स, और हम जो करते हैं कि ये ड्रग अच्छा है या वो ड्रग अच्छा है, ये हमें दिखाना है. तो यहाँ कौन से पैरामीटर्स इंपॉर्टेंट है, तो डिग्री ऑफ डिफरेंस टू बी डिटेक्टेड. मीन्स आपको अगर दो ड्रग कंपेयर करने हैं तो फर्स्ट थिंग यू हैव टू आस्क, इफ आई वांट टू कंपेयर 2 ड्रग्स फॉर वेट लॉस, देन यू हैव टू डिसाइड दैट एक ड्रग 3 kg से वेट कम कर रहा है एवरेज, तो दूसरा ड्रग आप कितना एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं, 4 kg से, 5 kg से या 3.5 kg से. जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि एक ड्रग 3 kg से कम कर रहा है, उसके कंपैरिजन का ड्रग आप बोल रहे हैं 3.5 kg से कम कर रहा है, तो डिफरेंस बिटवीन द 2 ड्रग्स इज 500 grams, ओनली 500 grams. बराबर, एक ड्रग 3 kg से कम कर रहा है, दूसरा 3.5 kg से, तो हाउ मच डिफरेंस इज देयर, 0.5 grams, दैट मीन्स 500 grams, 0.5 kg, दैट मीन्स 500 grams. और अगर हमने ऐसे सोचा कि नहीं 3.5 नहीं, मेरा दूसरा ड्रग जो मैं नया ट्रीट करने वाली हूँ, जो नया मैं ट्राई करने वाली हूँ 5 kg से कम करेगी, तो कितना डिफरेंस हुआ, 2 kg का. सो जब आप 2 kg का डिफरेंस लेके चलते हो तो आपको सैंपल साइज कम लगेगी. 500 ग्राम का डिफरेंस लेके चलते हो तो आपको सैंपल साइज ज्यादा लगेगी. जितना आप दो ड्रग्स में डिफरेंस कम दिखाएंगे सैंपल साइज बढ़ेगी, जितना आप डिफरेंस ज्यादा एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हो सैंपल साइज कम होगी. सो दिस इज समथिंग विच यू हैव टू रिमेंबर. देन वेरिएबिलिटी, and this is another important factor in the studies sample size calculation which you have to keep in mind. जैसे अगर मैंने आपको पूछा कि मुझे डायबिटीज पे काम करना है, 2 ड्रग कंपेयर करने हैं, और मेरा एक ड्रग जो है वो कुछ 10 मिलीग्राम पर DL से शुगर कम करता है, और दूसरा जो ड्रग है वो मुझे 20 मिलीग्राम पर DL से शुगर कम करेगा, ऐसे चाहिए. नाउ यू हैव टू फर्स्ट अंडरस्टैंड कि अगर हमने पूरे लोगों का भारत भर में ब्लड शुगर लिया तो वो एक एज ग्रुप में ही लेते हैं, चलो 18 to 35 एज ग्रुप में हमने ब्लड शुगर लिया, तो आपको ऐसे लगता है कि हर एक का एग्जैक्टली 100 या 90 ऐसे पड़ेगा? हर एक का मीन्स हमने पूरे कंट्री में 18 to 35 ईयर्स के लोगों का, 18 to 20 ईयर्स के लोगों का, बहुत शॉर्ट एज ग्रुप में हमने ब्लड शुगर एस्टिमेट किया, तो डू यू थिंक दैट इट विल बी एग्जैक्टली सेम? It will never be. There will be some variability. That variability is known as standard deviation, कि population कितना differ करती है, population में sugar levels कितने differ करती है. So अगर आपका standard deviation है जो population में means जो 18 to 25 age group है उसमें blood sugar level can be 80 to से मीन्स 80 कम से कम और ज्यादा से ज्यादा 98 तक ब्लड शुगर दिखती है. सो 80 to 98 ये इतने रेंज में हमें सब लोगों की ब्लड शुगर दिखती है. और अगर मैं ऐसे बोलती हूँ कि मेरा जो ड्रग है वो 98 ब्लड शुगर वालों का ब्लड शुगर 95 कर रहा है, 3 मिलीग्राम पर डीएल या 5 मिलीग्राम पर डीएल कम करता है, तो वो तो नेचुरल वेरिएशन में ही बैठ रहा है ना. वो आप कम ज्यादा की बात कैसे कर सकेंगे? वो तो नेचुरल वेरिएशन है जो दिखता है पॉपुलेशन में. So we have to consider the difference which is more than the standard deviation, और the standard जो difference मिलते हैं उससे हमें ज्यादा करके सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेट करनी है. तो जब हम कंपैरेटिव स्टडी में भी सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेट करते हैं, एंड देयर इज one very important concept of type 1 and type 2 error which you will learn during your first MD syllabus. But what we have to remember, I'm really not going into this, but what I'm leaving these slides with with the organizers. But what we have to understand, that again here when there is a proportion, percentage, categories, the sample size formula is different. And when you are using a continuous variable, then again your sample size formula is different. So there are different kind of statistical formulae according to your type of study and the data which you are considering. And ये आप जब मान के चलोगे तब कोई ये नहीं बोलेगा कि मेरा स्टडी है जिसमें मुझे प्रिवेलेंस पता ही नहीं है. ये बात आती ही नहीं है क्योंकि सब स्टडी में प्रीवेलेंस लगता नहीं है. ये चीज हमें आज के लेक्चर से सिर्फ जाननी है. एंड मीन्स देर आर डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ एग्जाम्पल्स, एंड we can take another session, and I'm sure that Vishwa Ayurved Parishad will consider having a session completely at least 2 or 3 days for statistics, so we can consider all these things. But as of now, looking at time, I will just say that sampling methods तो हमने देख लिए हैं, और sample size calculation के लिए it depends on type of data and study. So whenever you are approaching to the statistician, please keep these two things in your mind. Means बहुत senior लोग भी इसमें गलती कर देते हैं कि मेरा स्टडी कंपैरिजन का है, लेकिन मुझे कोई अलग ही फॉर्मूला यूज करके सैंपल साइज निकाल देते हैं. तो हमें ये नहीं करना है. We have to, tell the statistician कि this is a comparative study. I have 2 groups and my variable is continuous. Now you calculate sample size. Okay, so I think I will stop here for the sake of time, and we will meet sometime soon on some other platform, and we will have these all things in detail. लेकिन आज के लिए I think I should conclude here. And एक चीज है जो मैं जाते जाते बताना चाहती हूँ कि स्टैटिस्टिक्स ऐसा सब्जेक्ट नहीं है कि मैंने आपको एक बार सिखाया और आपने सब मगअप कर लिया, अभी आप सब पूरा करने लगोगे. तो इट इज नॉट दैट इजी, बिकॉज इट इज सेड दैट आई हियर एंड आई फॉरगेट. आज आपने सिर्फ सुना तो आप कल भूल भी जाओगे इस चीज को. I see and I remember. So when I will actually show you how to calculate sample size, we will have some different examples. You will also ask me some examples of your choice. Then you will remember. But जब आप करोगे खुद तो you will understand it thoroughly. So हमें उस लेवल तक जाना है, लेकिन अगर जा नहीं पाए तो आज के लेक्चर के जो क्रक्स है, जो मेन पॉइंट्स है, वो ध्यान में रखेंगे तो भी बहुत यूजफुल रहेगा आपके लिए. सो थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you very much, Satya ma'am. Very nice intellectual, precise lecture. ये जो मैम ने लेक्चर दिया है, आउटलाइन दी है, मेनली मुझे लगता है इससे स्टूडेंट्स को काफी लाभ मिलेगा, वो अंडरस्टैंडिंग रहेगी। मेनली स्टैटिक्स एक बहुत सब्जेक्ट है, हम सभी जानते हैं। मेन जो मैम ने पॉइंट्स बताए उसको अगर हम समझ लें और डिस्कस करके हमें कैसे अपनी स्टडी को प्लान करना है, कम से कम इतनी ही हमारी गलतियां जो हैं, जो हम करते हैं ड्यूरिंग अपने थीसिस प्रपोजल को तैयार करने में, सिनॉप्सिस तैयार करने में, तो उसमें बहुत हेल्पफुल है। तो स्टैटिस्टिक्स ऐसा टॉपिक है जो बहुत जल्दी बच्चों को समझ नहीं आता, लेकिन मैम के लेक्चर से मुझे मतलब बहुत काफी सारे स्टूडेंट्स को मुझे लगता है आउटलाइनिंग समझ में आ गया
मैडम, मैं
होगा।
हमेशा एक बात कहती हूँ कि मैं भी तो आयुर्वेदिक डॉक्टर हूँ, मैंने भी तो आपके जैसा ही एमडी आयुर्वेदिक किया है।
या
तो
मैम,
अगर मुझे समझ में आता है स्टैटिस्टिक्स, एंड इफ आई कैन टॉक ऑन स्टैटिस्टिक्स फॉर अवर्स टुगेदर, व्हाई कांट यू? Everybody
या
can do it. It is not that difficult subject. So, you know, looking at people who are doing it makes the subject becomes easier. That is the whole objective of this session.
या थैंक्स मैम। नाउ I will call to Dr. Tarannu. If there is any question, so please ask. There is a question answer session now.
Okay.
You can
Thank you,
start.
ma'am. Thank
Mic
you.
over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. The question is from Dr. Hridesh Kumar. His question is, can judgment sampling cause biasness?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am. Can judgment sampling causes biasness? Bias.
Yes. So all non-probability sampling can causes bias.
Bias.
क्योंकि हमें उसमें कोई लॉजिक ही नहीं है ना, जैसे मुझे लोग पसंद आए, मैंने उनको ले लिया, दैट इज द होल थिंग। सो बायस तो बहुत आने वाला है, उसको बोलते हैं रिक्रूटमेंट बायस। तो ये बायस रिक्रूटमेंट के टाइम आने वाला है, इसलिए इसको रिक्रूटमेंट बायस कहते हैं। सो वेरी वेरी परफेक्ट क्वेश्चन।
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, now
एक क्वेश्चन और है, इसने पूछा है कि रैंडमाइजेशन और सैम्पलिंग इज सेम। इज देयर एनी
yes, ma'am.
इसमें बहुत लोग गलती करते हैं, क्योंकि रैंडम वर्ड दोनों जगह आता है, इसलिए रैंडम हम दोनों जगह लेके गलती कर देते हैं। लेकिन सैम्पलिंग जो है, रैंडम सैम्पलिंग जो है, वो हमें रिक्रूटमेंट के पहले करना है। हमें पेशेंट कैसे सिलेक्ट करना है उसके लिए सैम्पलिंग मेथड्स है, और रैंडम सैम्पलिंग उसमें एक मेथड है। हमने पेशेंट रिक्रूट कर दिए, अभी उनको 2 ग्रुप्स में डिवाइड करना है, तो हम जिस मेथड को यूज करके उनको 2 मेथड्स में 2 ग्रुप्स में डिवाइड करेंगे, वो रैंडमाइजेशन है। सो रैंडम सैम्पलिंग हैपन्स बिफोर द पेशेंट एंटर्स इन स्टडी, एंड रैंडमाइजेशन जो होता है वो स्टडी में रिक्रूट करने के बाद उनको कौन से ग्रुप में डाला जाएगा उधर होता है। सो दीज आर 2 डिफरेंट थिंग्स, एंड डोंट मिक्स दीज 2 थिंग्स।
Ma'am, one question is from Dr. Shivraj Dhaneshwar. He wants to know, is probability sampling procedure is same as random sampling?
प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग जो है, जैसे हमने देखा, तो प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग का मेन क्रक्स क्या है कि इसमें हर एक इंडिविजुअल को इक्वल चांस होता है, और उसके लिए हमने रैंडम का मीनिंग क्या है, मीन्स मैं आयुर्वेद में आपको सिंपल चीज में बताती हूँ कि रैंडम यानी यादृच्छा है, रैंडम यानी यादृच्छिक है। तो यादृच्छिक जब कोई होती है चीज, तो वो यानी हमें रैंडमली यानी कैसे भी होता है, उसमें आई मीन एवरीबडी हैज इक्वल चांस, क्योंकि रैंडम है ना, तो हर एक को इक्वल चांस मिलता है। सो व्हाट ही हैज सेड इज राइट, दैट प्रोबेबिलिटी में ही रैंडमाइज नेचर आता है। नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी में रैंडमाइज या ऐसे कुछ है ही नहीं, कोई लॉजिक ही नहीं है, कैसे भी आते हैं उसमें।
Thank you, ma'am. I hope this explanation will help you, Dr. Shivraj. Next question is, ma'am, Dr. Shweta, how can we calculate the sample size without prevalence rate?
तो मैंने जैसे बोला कि जैसे हमें क्लिनिकल ट्रायल्स में सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेशन करना है, तो हमें इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट क्या है, यहाँ प्रिवेलेंस नहीं है इम्पोर्टेंट, हमें हम जो 2 ड्रग का कंपेयर कर रहे हैं उनमें कितना डिफरेंस है, ये ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट पैरामीटर है। या हम जिस पैरामीटर पे स्टडी कर रहे हैं उसका स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन पॉपुलेशन में क्या है, वो इम्पोर्टेंट है। ये हमारे लिए इम्पोर्टेंट है ही नहीं कि वो कितना प्रिवेलेंट है। हमें 2 ड्रग जो कंपेयर करने हैं उनमें कितना इफेक्ट है, उसके ऊपर सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेशन करनी है। तो यहाँ प्रिवेलेंस का कोई पॉइंट ही नहीं आया। लेकिन अभी अपने सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेट कर ली, ये पॉइंट्स निकाल के, ये पॉइंट्स इंक्लूड करके, और आपकी सैंपल साइज आई सपोज 300, तो आपका ओबेसिटी का स्टडी है तो आपको 300 इजीली मिल जाएंगे। लेकिन अगर आपका स्टडी ऐसे कुछ तो है कि कोविड इन्फेक्टेड प्रेग्नेंट वुमेन, तो मे बी आपको 300 नहीं भी मिलेंगे, तो तब आप लिख सकते हो कि 300 सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेशन से आया है, लेकिन इतने पेशेंट्स मिलेंगे ही नहीं, इसलिए वी हैव रिस्ट्रिक्टेड अवरसेल्व्स टू 30. एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई एम टेलिंग यू अगेन एंड अगेन कि सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेशन करना इज बेटर फॉर एवरी सिचुएशन. सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेट करो, फिर आप वो पूरा कर पाए या नहीं कर पाए ये अलग बात है. आपको वो स्टडी का आंसर देने के लिए जितना सैंपल लगने वाला है वो नंबर तो आपको निकालना ही चाहिए.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope he will
A
answer.
question is from me, sir. क्या तो टाइप ऑफ ड्यूरेशन, जब हम किसी भी स्टडी प्रीवियस स्टडी हो चुकी है, तो माना आइबुप्रोफेन का स्टडी हुई है सर्वाइकल स्पॉन्डिलोसिस पे, तो अगर प्रीवियस स्टडी में ड्यूरेशन ऑफ टाइम नहीं दे रखा है कि इतने ड्यूरेशन तक हमने ये दिया है, और दूसरी स्टडी है जो हम ड्यूरेशन दे रहे हैं कि हमें 7 days या 1 month तक देना है, तो इसका भी इफेक्ट पड़ता है सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेशन पे?
ये रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी का पॉइंट है कि आप ड्यूरेशन कितना देना चाहते हो. दैट इज कम्प्लीटली डिफरेंट. अगर आपको ऐसे पूछना है, मीन्स मुझे ये क्वेश्चन का ऐसे मीनिंग लग रहा है कि अगर हम 2 ड्रग में डिफरेंस दिखाने के लिए ऐसे 2 स्टडी यूज कर रहे हैं कि इसमें एक में 7 दिन की ट्रीटमेंट दी है और एक में 15 दिन की दी है, एंड देन वी आर कंपेयरिंग द रिजल्ट्स, ऐसे अगर उनको प्रॉब्लम है, तो मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि जिसने वो 7 दिन का स्टडी किया है उसने ये मान के ही किया है कि ये ड्रग के लिए 7 दिन सफिशिएंट होने वाले हैं, और दूसरा कोई ड्रग है उसके लिए 15 दिन सफिशिएंट होने वाले हैं, मीन्स उसको 15 दिन लगने वाले हैं रिजल्ट्स दिखाने के लिए. सो वी शुड नॉट कंसिडर दैट डिफरेंस इन सैंपल साइज कैलकुलेशन, क्योंकि ये हमने कुछ लॉजिक लगा के ही वो टाइम ड्यूरेशन फिक्स किया था.
थैंक यू.
Okay.
Okay.
Dr.
Ma'am, our last question is Dr. Neelam Gupta. Dr. Neelam Rawat. Ma'am, she want to know what is the difference between observational and interventional study.
ये तो मुझे लगता है आपने ये पूरे कोर्स में पढ़ा ही होगा, सुना ही होगा, लेकिन ऑब्जर्वेशन मीन्स आप सिर्फ फिनोमिनन ऑब्जर्व करते हो, आप उसको कोई ब्रेक करने की कोशिश नहीं करते, संप्राप्ति भंग के लिए आप कुछ नहीं करते हो. इंटरवेंशन स्टडीज जो है उसमें आप संप्राप्ति भंग के लिए कुछ चिकित्सा देते हो. जैसे आपको देखना है कि विरुद्धाहार से कुष्ठ होता है या नहीं होता है, तो आप जो लोग विरुद्धाहार कर रहे हैं उनको सिर्फ ऑब्जर्व करोगे कि वो कुष्ठ उनको होता है या नहीं होता है. या आपको देखना है कि कफ प्रकृति के लोगों को आगे जाके कुछ एथेरोस्क्लेरोसिस जैसे डिसीजेस होते हैं या नहीं होते हैं, तो आप उनको ऑब्जर्व करोगे. आप उनको कोई ट्रीटमेंट नहीं देने वाले हो, आप उसमें इंटरवीन नहीं करने वाले हो, आप संप्राप्ति भंग नहीं करने वाले हो. लेकिन इंटरवेंशनल स्टडी जो है उसमें आप संप्राप्ति भंग
Hello.
इंटरवेंशन करते हो, इंटरवीन करते हो. इंटरवीन का अर्थ ही ये है कि संप्राप्ति भंग करना. तो आप कुछ भी, ये पंचकर्मा हो सकता है, कोई ट्रीटमेंट दूसरी योगा जैसी ट्रीटमेंट भी हो सकती है, डाइट भी हो सकता है, कुछ भी. लेकिन कुछ भी आप जब इंटरवेंशन, जैसे आप आज मेरा लेक्चर सुन रहे हो और आपका मेरे लेक्चर से पहले स्टैटिस्टिक्स का नॉलेज और मेरे लेक्चर के बाद स्टैटिस्टिक्स का नॉलेज, इसमें कुछ डिफरेंस हुआ है क्या नहीं, ये अगर मुझे देखना है तो मेरा लेक्चर ये इंटरवेंशन है. तो जब आप कोई भी चल रहा है फ्लो, उसको भंग करते हो तो उसको बोलते हैं इंटरवेंशनल स्टडीज.
Thank you, ma'am. Now
thank
it's
you,
look
madam.
like we have covered maximum queries.